Now that was really packed for all of those who are heading our VC money. Really rational, really focused, really that sort. But not necessarily all the startups have to aim for VC money. Not necessarily all the startups have to kind of be that rational. There's this other dimension, this very human side, this very human connection side, that you're able to build a relationship with your customers. So that's why our second keynote will take us to the world of building communities. And our next speaker, she does it. So she runs communities for female entrepreneurs who are founders, and also for those females who want to become VCs. So building those communities, some of those communities are paid communities, people paid to be there. She has an experience of running a volunteer organization with many, many members. So really good experience on the field of how do we get people together to really do great things together and really be proud of being together. And if I think about back some many speeches we've had, especially those were about branding, the community seems to be the key over there. But the question is, what are the key ingredients I need to keep in my mind to create this flourishing community around me? And for that, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome on stage Simone Franke, please.
Okay. Hello, everyone. How are we doing? Good? Okay, so one annoying thing first. Please all stand up. All right. So I'm going to ask you a few questions. And whenever you say, yes, that's me, you're going to sit down, okay? So who here in this room has been part of a football club? Please sit down. Okay, who here has ever been part of a yoga studio? Please sit down. Who here has ever been played an instrument or is still playing an instrument? Sit down. Wow, so many musicians, okay. Okay, and who here is part of the European Innovation Academy? Please sit down. Yay, okay, so congratulations. You're all part of a community. So before I will tell you a little bit of how we can actually apply community in business, I want to leave you with one very important message. And this message is, an audience is not a community. Okay? So just because you're sending out a post on Instagram or you're sending out an email newsletter, this is not a community. Because if we look at the Harvard community model, to make this here a little bit more formal, we have different stages of involvement and complexity that we need to go through in order to create an effective community. So what I want you to arrive at is a stage that at least is an involving state, okay? Where people are not just an audience, they build relationships, and these relationships are mutual. So there is a sender and a receiver, and the message goes forth and back. And if we play that around and we build startup teams, as we do here, we collaborate, we create something. And in the end, maybe in the end of these 3 weeks, we all leave here very empowered as aspiring entrepreneurs, okay? So now, how does community look like in business? And I want to take you back a little bit to the 2000s, when companies such as Amazon and IKEA, they were really rising, they were really growing. And why they were growing was because they tried to understand their customers as best as possible. So they personalized and tailored the experience that you can find on their websites and that you can find on their platforms. Then we saw a second movement, which we call the community-led movement. So we see here lifestyle brands such as Lululemon for all the yogis. We see here other brands such as Notion. They really try to involve their community and co-create their products and services. So they started having ambassador programs and referral programs and all of these kind of things. And nowadays, what we're seeing today is a new movement that is the community-owned movement. So we have companies that are actually co-owned by the members of the community. And in blockchain, if here people are into blockchain or Web3, blockchain is taking this whole community-owned game to the next level. We see it, for example, in decentralized autonomous organizations, if someone here is part of a DAO. So, what does that mean for you? Where can you start? First thing, use community marketing. This is where you get your products off the ground. We've seen it already like 1 or 2 days ago. We had keynotes about that you should test your product with different user and focus groups. But community marketing, what you can achieve with community marketing is you can validate or launch your product. You can amplify your marketing efforts. You can expand your business globally. And you can increase trust and credibility for your brand. And why is this so successful? Because of 2 things that you see here in the center: impact and money. Who here is a Lego fan? Hands up. Oh, okay. Okay, great. So, actually, Lego is a really interesting company and a really interesting community case. Because back in 23, Lego was $800 million in debt. So they've run huge trade shows and theme parks, and they wasted a lot of money, and they've been in huge debt. And today, the company is actually performing very well. They're doing $10 billion in revenue annually. And how come? Well, they created a company that crowdsourced product development. So what does that mean? They launched a platform called Lego Ideas, where you can register as a fan, as a user, as a customer, and you can submit your ideas. So you can submit your ideas and designs, but you can also vote on the designs of others. So the journey looks more or less like this. It's like you go on Lego Ideas, and you're gonna scroll through all the different figures, comic figures, what people want actually to have in their living room, what they want to give to their kids on Christmas. And then you can vote, or you can win supporters. And whenever you win 10,000 supporters, Lego actually releases the figure. And this is incredibly smart, because like that, Lego already knows which one of their products will be performing well and why. Because it's community-backed, as we call it. And then another thing that creates huge marketing impact is once a year, they have these reviews, these Lego review announcements. So they make huge events on huge stages, similar to Canva and whatever you know, where they reveal the power of the community. Who here wants a Cybertruck? So this is another very interesting community marketing strategy. It's called Build in Public. And this is something that you can actually start today with your products and services. It is super simple. You create a wait list. And back in 2019, Elon Musk created a wait list for this weird car, because let's be honest, it is a very weird car. So what Tesla did is like, okay, if you want us to produce this car, please make here your deposit. And only if we gather enough deposits, then we're actually gonna launch this Cybertruck. And actually, I think today there is already the 2nd or 3rd version on the market, and it is a huge success, built in public. Who here knows this artist? Oh, really? Okay, interesting. So then you're a step forward, because I think until today, the identity of this guy here, of Mr. Banksy, is actually unknown. So this guy really understood how to use community, environment, and audience to actually become a high-selling street artist. And not only to be a street artist, also to be an activist, to have impact. So if you look at some of the records here of the paintings that he has sold, like some of them sold for millions. I'm going to show you a quick video.
Art connoisseurs could only watch in horror as an expensive piece was shredded before their eyes. No sooner did the gavel come down to mark the sale of Banksy's Girl with Balloon for a record $1.4 million, did the picture start to slip out of its frame into shreds below. The anonymous artist claims to be behind the stunt. On Instagram, he posted a photo of his prank with the caption, "Going?"
Okay, I'm gonna go back. Okay, so what Banksy has done was incredibly smart. He involved his audience in order to actually leverage the value of one of his paintings to almost double amount. So the initial painting was this painting here from 26, Girl with the Balloon. But then at the auction of this actual painting, he let it shred in front of the eyes of the people who wanted to buy it. So with that, the whole theme, the whole topic of the painting changed into, they recalled it in Love is in the Bin. And the actual painting, like afterwards, sold out for tremendously higher amount of money. So this was one of the best surprise effects in terms of community marketing that have been ever done. And I think these people for sure will never forget it. And I don't know if you have traveled a little bit around Portugal, but we're going to talk about guerrilla marketing. So maybe you have seen like some of these signs here. Who the fuck is Henry? Well, we don't know who the fuck is Henry, but one thing for sure, I see these signs everywhere. And now, years later, I do not only see the sign, who the fuck is Henry, I also see signs like, life is good, have a great lay. And people are actually like, taking this whole thing viral. They're like tweeting on Reddit, like, I'm a tourist in Portugal, who the fuck is this guy, what is he doing? Well, that's the whole marketing strategy, okay? If you go to whothefuckishenry.com, you can see what you can buy. They have parties, they have t-shirts, they have drinks, they have everything, okay? Very effective community strategy. And last but not least, there are flash mobs and event strategies that you can include in your product launch. One of the most famous flash mobs was actually the launch of Harper's Magazine back in '23, when Bill Vasic actually went into Toys R Us, and out of the sudden, like within like a very short time frame, a lot of people like started running out of the store or in the store and gathered around a huge dinosaur. And this whole thing was filmed, went viral, and that was actually a really great launch campaign. So whatever you do, make sure you gather people. And to maybe wrap this up, so boldness always pays off. Emotions are actually what create engagement and unpredictability, so having surprising effects in your community marketing, create memorable experiences that your audience will never forget, and that's how you actually can win your first customers. The second part that I want to bring closer to you today is how to build a community ecosystem. So what is a community ecosystem for your startup? Some of you here are building B2B solutions, others are building B2C solutions, but the main theme here is you have to decide on your efforts. Are you focusing more into internal community building or external community building? We have heard it already before. You need to know who is your audience, who is your buyer persona. So you need to know who are the members, the users of your, for example, potential app. Okay? Because this is very important, because they are part of your community. And a community is not homogeneous. A community is heterogeneous. We are all different. And knowing that, you can actually create different strategies. You can create referral strategies, partner and ambassador programs, and you can create memorable experiences to launch that are gamified. Pretty sure you all know Duolingo. But let's have a deeper look. Pretty sure you know this guy, Mr. Beast, one of the best YouTubers, but also, if not the best personal brand on the market. And we all know Taylor Swift. I'm not a Taylor Swift fan, but for sure I know her community, the Swifties. Like, they run to all the concerts with like glitter and fashion, and like even women in my age, they are like running dressed up like Swifties to the concerts. I'm like, wow, how old are you? 6? Well, what they are doing very well is they're driving product adoption through community engagement. And why does that work so well? Because through these community movements, they're enhancing trust, okay? They actually build customers' confidence, which then leads to higher conversion rate of their products and services. We've building a community that can increase the loyalty, so they create long-term relationships with their audiences. So people do not only buy once, they buy twice or 3 times. People actually start collecting things. And then last but not least, everything that is cool, that is shared, is great advertisement. So people just start talking about it. So the word of mouth is a very effective way of marketing something, because it doesn't cost you money. It doesn't cost me money. If you walk out here today and you say, like, Simone was great, please go on her website, please hire her, like, I haven't done a single Google ad here. That's great marketing. But as we heard it before from Gabriella, for example, nothing is proven if it's not tracked. So I want to talk very briefly about some important community key metrics. We always want to know, what is the engagement rate? So what is the engagement rate with our community? And to not overcomplicate that, because it's very difficult to actually measure engagement rates, except you measure how many people interacted with a specific post, there is one hint that I can give you. Choose your North Star metric. Only choose one metric that is so important for your company that you cannot miss it. For example, user count. If you launch a new app or you launch a waitlist for your product, like, this is the number one metric that you look at. It's your North Star metric, okay? And it has to relate to the objectives and goals of your brand. The second metric is the retention rate. So the retention rate describes how many members actually stick around and remain active after some time. This differentiates in different industries. If you are launching just another mobile app, well, let me tell you that the retention rate in most mobile apps after launch is like under 10%. So it's very low. However, when you build like a product in the B2B industry, like, your retention rate can be 80%. That's totally fine. So if you measure your retention rate, like, don't be frustrated if it's very low, because depending on what you actually do, it is totally normal. In like SaaS industry, for example, over a time period of 8 weeks, a retention rate around 25–30% is completely normal. And then last but not least, you have to know your churn rate, because unfortunately, attention span is very low and people like to test out different things. So maybe they sign up on your app, but then next day, after signing up to Tinder, they decide, I'm going to sign up on Bumble. So you may have to measure how many people are actually also leaving, because this gives you a very good opportunity to create other community strategies to find out why they're actually leaving and how you can develop your product. But for you here on today, I would give you the recommendation, focus on qualitative engagement signals in early stages. So who are the people that are constantly talking very excited about your product? Right? We call them also the super users, the early adopters that are super engaged. Right? So then don't get too deep into metrics that are quantitative, focus on the qualitative ones. And if you actually design, like, let's say, an app or a matchmaking platform or something like this, then be aware that you can create a community experience. And this community experience usually has 5 impactful touch points in the customer journey. First, you need to find and connect to your audience. You need to add value. Then you enable connections. You drive participations. For example, you ask for their opinion. And then afterwards, you empower your members and users because you implement their feedback and you involve them in growing your business. And a very simple field where you can apply that, like, immediately is the onboarding experiences. And the onboarding experience in every business is super, super important, because if people are not onboarded well, they're probably gonna leave very fast because they don't have a fucking clue what they should be doing, okay? Who here wants to build a life-changing business? All right, great. So there is a famous quote that says, if you want to change lives, a person's life, start with changing their day first. So there is this very interesting game. I guess a few of you know it. It's like called Angry Birds. And this is level 1, actually. So you have on the left side, you have an angry bird, and on the right side, you have a pig. And that's it, okay? And probably you're gonna forget to pick up your kids from school. And why is this so effective? Well, because we should aim for quick, small wins. Okay? Quick, small wins. Give your users and members quick, small wins, and they will stick around. They will get addicted. And there are a couple of games and platforms that have really, really accelerated the game of making people addicted to their products and services. So one of the things that you can do is create maybe small challenges. Like, people love that. They love 3-day challenges, 7-day challenges, because they can achieve in a very short amount of time, like a win. So to wrap that up, that second point, foster relationships. Encourage your users and members to give feedback. And last but not least, share your success stories. So if you measure community metrics, make sure that you also share to your audience what was loved the most, what was celebrated the most, or what was hated the most, because as we learned, bad publicity is also good publicity. And now to the last part of my presentation. In some cases, you can actually build communities as a business. What does that mean? You can create businesses that incorporate, for example, monetized audiences, like memberships, membership clubs. Okay? And why they're so effective is because they save you a lot of time and money. People get together, they potentially co-invest, then you create activities between the members, which we call peer-to-peer activities, so they can have peer-to-peer learnings. They don't necessarily rely on you to actually keep going, they create their own activities. And then with people, you can accelerate growth. So you see that in different, for example, franchising companies. I saw in Porto the other day, there's this famous jiu-jitsu gym. So that's a franchise company example that accelerated growth. I think it's the biggest jiu-jitsu gym in the world. And then last but not least, you have the opportunity to co-earn. So whenever you earn, someone else can earn as well, because you co-invested in the first place. And just to give you 3 personal examples here, when I came to Portugal 8 years ago, I got in touch with someone that was part of a non-profit organization called Junior Chamber International. And this was the moment I truly understood the power of impact organizations and of non-profits, because they really live this approach of community as a business. JCI Portugal, or JCI International, is a membership-driven organization for young leaders until 40 years old. And when I came to Portugal, all I did was listening to the people of where they want to have impact. So we did beach cleanups, we developed sustainability maps, we built dog shelters, we hosted workshops, we did a bunch of things, gathering people, making them feel good, involving them in our activities, made them become leader. And that's how we actually could create JCI Portugal as a super profitable non-profit organization. So if some of you here have projects today that think like, our product and service is around impact, and I don't really know how to monetize that, or I don't really know how to sell that because the people that really need it, they don't have money, well, then let me tell you, there are other ways, okay? You can either create a membership, or you can actually create a non-profit organization that then gets grants instead of like selling products and services to individuals constantly. The second example is my own agency that I founded in 2020. It's called Papa's Agency. And I founded this agency to show people how to actually grow businesses organically faster through the power of community. So all we do is we create stakeholder networks, we build community internally and externally, and we involve everyone. And you know, I had a couple of clients like that are really a pain in the ass, as you say, because they didn't understand like the simplest thing ever. I remember I was working with a golden visa company, and the first day they told me like, oh no, we cannot do this. We cannot create this community department because we don't want that our customers talk to each other. And I'm like, wait a second, you don't want that people talk to each other? So how can we actually create a community? So I actually had to leave that job like 6 months earlier because I thought it was not very impactful. So try to always collaborate with each other. If you haven't done it yet, like go to the other groups, talk about their startups, hear what they're doing, like give each other advice, because teamwork makes the dream work. And last but not least, my last example here is She Sapiens. So as introduced before, over the last 3 years, I built an organization that now is in approximately 6 countries active, with 7,000 members and partners involved for female entrepreneurs. And I remember very well the first day I started She Sapiens. I was actually standing at 6 a.m. in my kitchen baking 6 egg muffins. And from this very tiny first event, we created a community business that today is very impactful and probably has changed many, many lives of women that want to become entrepreneurs or that need to accelerate their growth. And what we did is we actually never had volunteers, we never hired, we empowered other entrepreneurs to grow their own local communities. So basically for everything that we did, we created blueprints. We created blueprints for events, blueprints for masterclasses, and then we just apply the blueprints in other cities and other countries, and that's how we could grow through the power of community. But be aware that whatever community you create, and this includes also your own teams, you go through different community growth life cycles. So there's always an inception phase, like the very beginning when you're super excited that you're here at this academy. And you feel that everything is possible. Then you establish your team. So you establish your dynamics, the rules, the activities of your community. And eventually you will arrive at the one point, what we call the maturity stage. And if you arrive at the maturity stage, let's say you found your genius idea, you're actually building the startup, well then congratulations, you're already further than many other communities that I've known. But what also happens is that you're saturated. So you will reach plateaus, and that's very normal. In business, in communities, within your startup teams, you will face plateaus. And these plateaus are good because you actually create tensions. You will understand that you have different opinions, that people want to go into different directions. And then this is what we, in community building, we call the storming and norming phase, because people will have fights with each other, they want to go into different directions, and then it is actually, okay, how can we get further? How can we move on from these plateaus? And this is when we actually manage to norm these storming phases, we arrive at the mitosis stage, where the community changes into something completely different. And that's why it's okay that even today, some of you might say, you know what, we're gonna pivot our entire idea. That's okay, because that's what is needed. We call this mitosis. So to wrap up here, successful community-driven strategies are building a strong community, internally or externally, driving product adoption through platforms, through marketing strategies, key tactics that involve engagement, for example, user-generated content, events, and last but not least, having successful case studies that you show to the world. Don't be afraid to show the impact that you actually have. So build with the community, not for the community. And if you want to talk to me or you don't know how to actually find a creative idea to grow or expand your business, you can connect with me on Instagram or LinkedIn. Thank you.
I'll kick off the Q&A with one question.
Right.
So once you have a community, then the selling argument is that, hey, there's like 100 founders in our chapter here, and this is the place you want to be, and maybe we have some VIPs as well. So it's kind of easier to sell the thought of joining the community. But how do you get, you said those 6 muffins?
6 egg muffins.
6 muffins, so 6 people in a tiny group. Luckily, you have 5 team members, so you can do 5 muffins already. And but how, in this very early age, do you get those early comers to the community when you don't have any kind of fancy things to show around? What determines the acceleration in that phase?
I think the most important is that you're very clear about your values, about your brand identity. And if you're hosting just an event as a single person, as I did, then people want to feel that you are honest and that you are authentic. And as Florian said earlier on, if you don't have the answer to a question, just let them know that you don't know the answer. So people want to feel that you are real.
So some kind of an authentic human connection, and probably the early comers feel even more connected, then it grows a bit big, and then you have to make separate chapters and that kind of thing.
It is what we call the founder spirit. So you need to be able to transmit the founder spirit. That's why storytelling is so important. And I think that you said that it's not about the fancy things, and that's completely true. It is that people actually feel your why, right? And that's how you create the emotional rapport that people say, you know what? I want to follow them around. I think they are worth to be leaders because I want to follow them.
The why has to be clear, and it has to be felt by the people. Let's dive into Q&A. If you have a question, please stand up. We'll bring a microphone.
Hello. Hello, good morning. Thank you for your presentation. My name is Eduardo, and I would like to ask you, like, how can we manage in our community if we have different point of views within the community, and like, for example, if our community ideas goes to a certain direction and our ideas goes to another one, how can we manage this?
Yeah, that's an important question. I don't know what your business or potential business is about, but the reason why companies often fail is because they don't listen to their customers, they don't listen to the community. So I think the best advice that I can give you is like really have a look at what is the feedback and be willing to have an ego death. which means is if the community says we want to go into this direction because we think that this is most valuable, then follow this advice. Don't like be so, like, I want to go this way because this is how I thought this company would go. This is why company fail.
Okay. Well, yeah, we need to follow our purpose also, or like just completely go in this direction.
You always should follow your purpose. This is where everything starts, right? You can gather a group of people because they believe in your idea.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yes, question.
Okay, perfect, thank you. Thank you, Anna, for the presentation. I have a question regarding building a company or like building a community around the B2B business, since you were only kind of suggesting or showing B2C businesses in your presentation. Do you have any hints or suggestions for that?
Yeah, I think that community building and B2B is highly underrated, but it is very powerful. We call it like creating stakeholder networks. So start with, for example, looking at indirect competitors and see how you can, for example, collaborate with them. How can you, for example, set up LinkedIn webinars or event series, inviting them over? Because they will also have a followership, they will also have an audience, so the impact you can have in the end of the day is bigger. And then another way of building community internally, more with like your potential customers or already existing customers, are loyalty programs or ambassador programs.
And one more question. You mentioned the small successes in a SaaS platform, for example. How would you implement that in a B2B business?
Give me an example.
An example of a smaller success in a SaaS platform?
No, of a B2B business. What type?
Let's say we do something for the construction area and they are monitoring bridges, for example.
I mean, what people always love is when they receive valuable advice that is like very quick digestible, right? So you also see this on the B2C side, this cheat sheets. And if you are, for example, in an unsexy business, such as construction, then maybe there are floating around a lot of terms that people usually would spend hours to go to their lexicon to see, okay, what did this mean again? So maybe you can create like a very compact knowledge formats that you can actually share, so that you have branded content that they can use on a daily basis. Because as I said in my presentation, if you want to change people's life, change their day first. So implement ways that they actually like stick around, use your knowledge, and be reminded of what you're actually doing.
So based on informations like, for example, like Germany raised a special fund of 500 billion euros for infrastructure.
Information, knowledge, yeah.
Tiny little benefit to get them to log in tomorrow
perfect,
as well.
thank you.
Question from the back, please.
Oh yeah, hi. I wanted to ask, so if you've got like a B2B business, but your end users are to C, so like your paying customers are businesses, but your end users are their customers, consumers, how would you build a community? Would you focus on the B2B community or the B2C, or would you try and combine them both?
You can do both. Usually, and I think B2B2C businesses are a very good example of that. You are only as successful as your customers are. So how can you add value to your customers that brings them more customers? And how can you actually highlight this impact? So something very powerful are, for example, partner spotlights or community member spotlights. Like just rewards, simple moments of recognition.
Question from here.
Yeah, thank you so much. I have one question regarding to something that you said, which was you built a very profitable non-profit organization, or you're a part of it and you helped it grow. My question is, what's your advice on matching those two, the profit, the money, with the impact that you have for the community? It's clear from the presentation how you can build for the community, or you can build with the community actually, and how you can make an impact. But many of us, I think, have had ideas that would make an impact, but struggled with how do we get the money for that? How do we actually make it work from a financial point of view? So how do you go about matching these two?
Or can you share the model how JCI did it? How did non-profit actually make profit?
Yeah, I can share the JCI example. So what we did, well, we had no members, we had no money, because this was in a relationship. So what we did is we actually reached out to companies for more workforce for our nonprofit, and we said, we have these amazing ideas and this amazing project. Do you want to help us to clean the beach? So we went to big technology companies and we said, if you give us in one day 40 people to help us cleaning the beach, how would that equal this impact into money? So companies over a third party, and there are a couple of these nonprofit platforms, companies started us paying the equivalent amount of what was their time worth, right? So we received recurring revenue in the end of the day. But something that hasn't been mentioned, and that is more like on the finance side, is you don't necessarily need to raise money with a VC. You can also find like just a simple an angel investor, and an angel investor can be your uncle technically, okay? And then there is another option, which is crowdfunding, and a lot of nonprofits, when they start, they crowdfund. And you can crowdfund yourself if you have a large audience over your website, over your socials, but you can also just register your project at sites like GoFundMe, where people can vote, like the Lego principle, and they can vote on your idea and they can leave money, and you can have a campaign that is active for 2-3 years until you have collected enough money to actually launch your nonprofit or your business.
Thank you. If I can just have one push back on it. Have you ever had one experience in which you had a great idea in one of those NGOs or non-profit organizations, and you really thought, oh, we can take this forward, but we are stuck. It's hard for us to get the money or to get the people or to find the next step to make things work. Personally, I had an experience like that in which we had people who were interested and they were saying, yes, we want to join you, but there was no support, no funding, or companies had some hold back in really making that impact, making that step forward, because there was not yet the proof of what we were doing. It was the very initial phase, and it felt like we were stuck. People wanted to join, but didn't have the support to get them on board with us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, this happens, and like let's face it. You have to make a decision at one point. Am I building a leisure project, or am I building a business? If you want to build a business needs to make money, right? If it doesn't make money, it's not a business. So that's why you should always like give your all and then accelerate growth to rather fail fast than actually carrying on for years because you feel like the market is not ready, I cannot find the right investors. There's probably a reason why you don't make money.
Okay,
Let's have a final quick question.
Yeah, hi. What could I ask is about the daily value that you bring on online basis, for example, with your business operating in 6 countries. How do you create that connection and that surprise effect worldwide if people are unable to get together offline, I mean?
Okay, so how do I measure impact, you want to know, with my organization?
Yeah, how to create this daily value, daily impact?
So
Okay,
they feel they get something,
yeah.
because for online stuff, you have a lot of online stuff going around for free as well. But if it's virtual community, how do they perceive that? Oh, I want to be part of that.
I think two things are power: connections and content. So what we do is we have different events, and I don't even know how many events we run per month, but there are a lot. So we run different events in different cities where people connect, and you see the direct impact in our community channels, on our WhatsApp group and our Discord, because people make introductions about themselves, they meet new friends, new business partners. There is a lot of communication going on where you see immediate impact. Online, when people connect, so we built this online platform where they get together and where they share knowledge, but we preserve the knowledge. And this is what I recommend to all of you, that if you create content and if you create knowledge, that you already think at the very beginning, how can you preserve the knowledge? So what we do is we host live masterclasses, but we're also recording these masterclasses, so they stuck around. So if you join us as a community member, about 3 years later, you can still rewatch the replays, so nothing gets lost.
Yes, thank you.
Right. Thank you for Simone.
Thank you.